Our lives are becoming ever more mediated by the internet, as much as they are mediated by our bodies, society, and historical cultural backgrounds. Creating a virtual space has added a new dimension to the expression of our agencies, just like this moment where we both get to interact. This hyper reality, however, isn't as utopic as it promised earlier. That is, the promise of democratizing the flow of information and creating a space for free flowing communication, when put against the backdrop of existing power structures within which this technology was developed, the fallibility of the democratic ideals become evident. The public sphere is a ground for political contestation. Creating a new public space entails a conflict of interest over the political control of the capital. According to Hamas, the bourgeois have erected a superstructure of capitalist ideology, once coming to power such that there prevails only one truth in society, thus privileging the logic of market over the logic of other socio-economic relations. Cyberspace or internet likewise is a similar case to public sphere. The information and communication technology proponents have vested interest in commercializing the space to expand markets for profit making. Besides the push for commercializations, many factors have threatened the well being of users, both individuals and nations, raising a gamut of ethical issues like identity theft, data mining, unethical hacking, security breach, and money laundering, to name a few. Cyberethics is a catch all term encapsulating information, computer, and internet ethics. This is a branch of applied ethics that develops certain standards and norms for evaluating our behavior in cyberspace and assessing social policies and laws that we frame in response to issues relating to cyber technology development and use.
Privacy in Big Data Paradigm. Dan Solov explains that privacy is a social value. It is necessary for individuals to flourish in social networks, allowing them permission to control intimate pieces of information. Extraction and monitoring technologies like cookies have erected a virtual panopticon that allows companies and governments to acquire a vast amount of data about individual users to create predictive models of behavior for targeted ads and surveillance. Certain elements remain inalienable to the core concept, including non intrusion, anonymity, secrecy, solitude, and restricted access. The US Supreme Court suggests defining privacy as controlling one's personal information. Philosophers Jim Moore and Herman Tavani have developed a theoretical framework of privacy as restricted access, limited control. Control can be manifest in mechanisms like informed consent, managing third party involvement, etc. Ethical norms and legal requirements create a protective zone of privacy because the situation requires such protection. If those principles are ignored, there is a violation or unjust infringement of privacy rights. Stricter laws are not the only solution. There are other modalities of regulation, including code, norms, and the marketplace. However, there has been an emerging consensus about the failure of self-regulation models of notice and consent, as individual users are at no par with surveillance architectures that digital titans perfect. Gordon Hull, in his paper, states three further reasons. First, users do not and cannot know what they are consenting to. Second, privacy preferences are challenging to effectuate. And third, declining to participate in privacy harming websites is increasingly not a viable option for many.
Free speech and anonymity. The news of Twitter acquisition broke under the defense of free speech by the tech giant Elon Musk. Free speech is historically the most defended right on the internet. Each post, comment, tweet is seen as the exercise of this inalienable right. We are well aware about the limits of the rights when it comes to the real life interpersonal exchanges, but the creation of a hyper-reality has distorted our view of where exactly are these limits imposed. Online platforms suffer from a similar problem that civil societies have. The ideal of free speech is often unilaterally invoked to defend those voices that actively harm and hurt marginalized groups. Even though big tech companies like Twitter and Facebook now deplatform outrightly problematic users, there are also waves of cancel culture washing away unaccountable influencers and personalities with problematic histories. These mechanisms are still not enough to remedy the damage that is actively aggressed onto minority groups. Even if an individual is deplatformed, the culture surrounding that individual remains and never truly dies out. Cyberethics asks the following question: what is the proper range of free speech for institutions and individuals, and how is this speech to be protected? Cyberethics are basically applied ethics. For ethical principles to be applied successfully, they must be devised in the light of varying demographic makeup of its users. The principle of anonymity works in close connection with free speech. In order for freedom of expression to be actualized, individuals should be allowed to maintain anonymity in cyberspace. Choosing to remain anonymous gives individuals, especially from disenfranchised communities, a protective cover to speak up and dissent at times when their identity is under threat from fascist regimes. Let's zoom out a little. The internet is a borderless world, offering each, in principle, a free passport to move around and through different spaces, platforms, and sites. But its fast growing nature hinders every attempt for the complete formulation of a solid and substantial ethical code. One line of moral reasoning that has been expounded with regards to cyberethics is that of corporate responsibility. It draws from the Kantian notion of duty and argues that since big companies happen to occupy a position of privilege, it is their duty to protect the interests of individual users. Individual users have simply been outpaced by rapid advancements in computer sciences and no longer have the choice to opt out of IT services. Four normative principles can be central to guiding cyberethics laws and policies: autonomy, non-maleficence, beneficence, and justice. For now, nations have their own Information and Technology Act that demarcate legal territories on the web and explicate offensive and punishable behavior in the cyberspace. For example, legal system of France and Germany realized the extent of unrectified hurt and aggression, which then led them to forbid most forms of hateful and extremist speech. Companies have also come to respect these legislations. For instance, Amazon no longer sells copies of Hitler's biography in Germany.